Hillary has been lengthening her excuses as to why she lost the election. She didn't really lose the election. It was stolen from her by, I think it's up to 24 different excuses she has now. Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia. And as I said, my grandfather was a Macedonian content farmer, and we often think about, gathering on the porch and recalling the old days on the Macedonian. He never thought that the old content farmers he left behind in Macedonia would one day steal the U.S. presidential election. They are gnarled, hard-working Macedonian peasants, and the way they were able to reach out.
As Macedonians celebrate Old New Year, which signals in a way a closing of the holiday season and return to thoughts of school and work, thoughts also return back to politics, not far from the minds of most Macedonians, and with it, elections, currently scheduled for April 12. A quote-unquote technical government is now in place with members of Vomerodopomene, the largest political party in Macedonia, now holding some key positions in the socialist-led government, which has already made for some interesting confrontations. As the scandals continue, the constant drip, drip, drip of a failed government and failed policies refuses to set Macedonia right. We'll discuss all of this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the snow-capped and yet clouded over Vodno Mountain in Skopje, the Republic of Macedonia.
And this is Cvetin also calling in from Skopje, the Republic of Macedonia, from the same aforementioned Vodno Mountain.
From the galactic world headquarters of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast.
Our growing media empire.
Still here, yes. Sponsorships available. And yet again, still drinking the Tikvesh Rakia. I think you're on something else.
Yeah, I think it got Chivas Regal.
All right. Oh, well, very good. Cheers.
Buddy.
Happy Old New Year.
Yeah, and Vasilica, it's also called the New Year according to the Julian calendar.
Right, yeah. So we are recording this on Sunday. No, sorry, strike that. Monday, January 13. So this will drop probably tomorrow, Tuesday, January 14. Might be able to get one more podcast in while I'm here before I take off. But again, as I said in the opening...
You're not moving here permanently?
Not yet. Yeah, I don't want to scare people too fast, too soon. So.
But also don't lull them in a sense of complacency.
Well, yeah, I've got family issues back in Tucson to take care of first, and then it's retirement. So it's the only place I can afford to retire.
So far,
Social Security income.
Well, listen, once we join NATO and the European Union, you won't be able to afford even that because this is right.
That's true. Yeah. Once you join NATO, instantly wealth pours in. Mm-hmm. The trees bloom with $100 bills. The Benjamins are falling off as leaves. Mm-hmm. Right.
If only we could get Spain to finally ratify the thing. They're still standing. The only thing standing in our way, on our way to full prosperity and full employment. And clean air and everything else Zaev promised.
Clean air. Sorry, I had to laugh at that because of the pollution that I've encountered. Mm-hmm. It's been many winters since I've actually been here. Mm-hmm. Usually I come in the summer, spring, fall, but the winters, as I know, is when the pollution is the worst. Of course, people are burning wood and
God knows what else.
Yes, only he knows what else. I mean, it really hasn't seemed that bad, and I know we had a couple of good days there. The wind and that kept things down to a minimum and whatnot. But the government really hasn't done much to fulfill its pledge to get rid of pollution. It actually hasn't done much to fulfill its pledges of anything.
They are now complaining that the devices which measure pollution were AliExpress, which means like bootleg Chinese copies.
Seriously?
The same devices which, when under Vomero, when they would reveal high levels of pollution, SDSM would insist that this is a murderous genocide of entire nation, and now they're in power and they should be doing something, and they promise they will do something about it. Now they say, well, no, actually the device is wrong.
Of course.
But, best of all was Mitko Jančev, the mayor of Kavadarci, Vomero, switching toward SDSM, who actually had one of those trucks used to clean up the streets, pour water on top of the device, thinking that this is going to clean up the air around it so he could artificially... People actually had recorded this a truck dousing the measuring
Device.
station with water.
Oh, that is funny. Now, I was with a friend earlier today for a beer, and we were talking about this very subject, and we're getting ready to cross the street, and he pulls his phone out,
Nice.
taps on a few things, finds the application that tells him exactly what the particulate matter is in Skopje, and it was like 93 or something like that, and I thought, that's not that bad, is it?
That's like twice above.
I had no
which
idea.
is
See, I don't
double
know.
the limit.
Yeah,
which is
I don't know.
great.
He said anything above 30 is bad, and it showed because the number 93 showed up, and it was a red screen.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It shows us, what I want is I want flashing sideways.
Yeah, it easily goes to 500, 600. So if it's
Bloody hell.
but it's red above 50, 60. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
the limit, but it goes like 10 times above the limit easily, depending on the time of the day and the location.
Incredible. Well, we know that the government had promised to get rid of the pollution and whatnot. It also declared that 2020 is the year of the economy or economic advances or things like that and whatnot. And I see our friends, air quotes, at Balkan Insight have even gone out and started attacking the government of former Prime Minister. We like saying that, former Prime Minister, although he still thinks he's Prime Minister because he went to see the Patriarch today with the current Prime Minister, or technical Prime Minister, Zoran Zaev. But even Balkan Insight is kind of attacking the government, and which is rare for them. It's the left attacking the left. Well, the revolution devours its own.
Yeah, they do it on issues which are not that important.
Exactly. So they did a piece on how the government just passed the budget last month, I think it was, and even with the salary increases, the pension increases, everything else, that doesn't do anything long term for the people or for the country.
It's actually minimum wage hike, which I had an example with a person I know who works like a cleaning lady with minimum wage, and she would get like 16.5 k dinars, which is like under 300 euros salary a month for cleaning. And then the minimum wage was set, I think, at 15.5 now, like 1,000 dinars less. And so basically the management said, well, the government says this is now the salary we should be giving you. They're obviously not telling these poorly educated, often Roma women, that this is like the minimum salary. They say this is the salary we should pay you. Now the salary is set at this level, and they actually reduced her salary. When the minimum wage was like 14,000, she would get 2.5 thousand dinars more. Now that the minimum wage is increased, she actually gets a pay cut because the company thinks it's psychologically, they can get away with it and blame it on the government. So this is how it works. I mean, some of the economic measures they withdrew, like the progressive taxation, and those that are still enforced, those that they did implement, are actually making things actively worse in the country.
Wow. Well, the article here quotes, and I didn't keep the entire article. I just kept part of it out. Minister Bajeti.
Yeah.
Who is he?
Bekteshi, sorry.
Bekteshi. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm reading that wrong. He says, well, it's not a direct quote, but teachers will also receive a pay rise of 10%, but higher salaries, he said, are no substitute for the kind of systemic reforms and major investment required to provide a long-term qualitative improvement of the workforce.
Yeah, nothing.
So they're raising the salaries, they're raising the pensions. I see pensions will average increase of up to 15 euros. Wow, per month.
Where can we spend the money?
15 euros, you can get a
What will we do with
bottles
all
of
that
wine, several
moolah?
packs of cigarettes, etc.
Yeah, this is
Buy grandkids from chocolate.
the budget is programmed for elections. I mean, nothing.
Of course, yeah.
And it does nothing. I mean, it does nothing to add to productivity or improve competitiveness. None of that is being.
Yeah.
No companies have invested. Even the marijuana growers today said they're gonna protest and they're gonna dump the ganja in front of the VMR office because VMR is blocking a law. We discussed this. All these plantations of marijuana, most of them run by Zaev, which are mushrooming around the country. They're ostensibly
He's not getting into the mushroom business too, is he?
Well, probably magic mushrooms.
Magic shrooms. Yeah. Okay.
And they're supposed to be making cannabis oil for exporting to Germany, but none of this was ever made yet or exported. So now Zaev is pushing along. And he's obviously selling this on the black market as dried marijuana for smoking. A partner of his was just arrested in Serbia doing exactly that.
Oh, not Big Mike. Sorry.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
Serbian guy, some
Okay.
Koluvia something.
Right.
And now they want to legally be allowed to sell the dried marijuana, the more potent bits of the plant. Obviously, as in countries which allow use of marijuana legally. And now the marijuana growers, they say they're going to protest in front of Vimera because Vimera says this is legalizing drugs. We're turning into a narco state. We were not going to allow this. We're going to go along with the cannabis oil for medicinal purposes, but not recreational dried marijuana. And so now basically even the marijuana, the drug business is going out of business. That's how good things are.
That's pretty bad if you're if you're running a quasi criminal enterprise and you can't even make that work.
Yeah.
Then that speaks volumes.
We have the annual protest of prostitutes, so that's nothing new that they're complaining. Business is slow and not improving. So yeah, it's there is nothing socialists can destroy.
Right.
No business.
Well, so we enter this period between now, as we talked about earlier, of Old New Year, and we're looking at school starting again, people getting back into work after the holiday season. People's thoughts turn to the politics and whatnot. And yet the scandals, as I said in the opening monologue, continue to drip. And we haven't heard a lot over the past week or so because of Christmas and whatnot. But what's the latest that I saw a few things on the news. I didn't have time to really dig deep into them, but you know this better than I do. What are some of the latest developments in the scandals?
Yeah, well, today we had the collapse of the TNT trial, which was one of the Katica cases against Nikola Gruevski, one of the half a dozen of such cases. But it was very interesting. I think I explained it once in detail here on this podcast. In short, a businessman, a developer who was building like a large residential complex, who was close to Gruevski. He was going to deliver the Muslim Macedonian votes to him, but then had a major falling out with him. He was building above, over the allowed size, so the building was demolished. And then the businessman gave a bribe of 200,000 euros to Katica Janeva indirectly through a relative of his, to Boki 13, Katica's comic sidekick and henchman. And the money were apparently given to her so she could file charges against Nikola Gruevski, which were supposed to lead to this businessman receiving 40 million in compensation from the state, which is twice the estimated sum of money which Katica Janeva was extorting from businessmen through all her other rackets. So basically, even while she's in prison, in the dying days of the Zaev regime, he's now out and the regime is collapsing. They were still trying to extort money for their businesses, but this time from the government, through a legal means, through a trial which they were going to blame on Gruevski eventually. But they had a technical error in which one of the judges who sits on a panel was supposed to retire, and once she retires, the trial is supposed to start again.
She had actually reached age 60 during the middle of the trial, which is a mandatory retirement.
Yeah.
You'd think there would be some provision that says if that was the trigger that makes her retire, that they would allow her to finish the case, but literally on that day?
They were trying. The defense obviously said that she's supposed to retire immediately.
Right.
The judicial council and the judge were insisting on having the trial go ahead because, again, they had 40 million very good reasons for this. So she submitted her resignation last week, then changed her mind again, because the defense was telling her if this money is paid from the state budget, you will be held liable for approving this illegally, unlawfully, when you were supposed to be retired. And today she resigned again and retired again, and the judge, who is this total Nazi-style SDSM activist, who would order like 12-hour-long hearings just so he could complete the trial before she retired. Now, he threw in the towel and he said, okay, we're starting again. But he told the defense, but can we please consider all the evidence that was presented so far as presented, so you don't have to present it for the new judge, so we can start
over again.
from this actual point. And they said no. We start all over again, as the law prescribes. So this collapse. Zaev was openly threatening the judges. He was telling them, "I'm going to sic the anti-corruption commission on you. I'm going to sic the police. I'm going to sic the judicial council on you. Have you removed if you don't speed up the verdicts against Gruevski, who is already once sentenced, but second, third, fifth time, especially in this huge payment trial." But it collapsed today. By tomorrow it might change. I mean, they might get this judge to consider her resignation again for the third time. But this is where we are.
Oh, it's a Keystone Cops comedy. It's a comedy of errors is what it is. Okay, so that's one. That's the TNT case and the judges and whatnot. What else? What's with Boki 13? Has he said anything lately, or has anything come up there?
We're waiting. I mean, he offered his full cooperation.
Right.
Frosina Reminsky did. Frosina Reminsky did that as well. So basically, there are two people openly, elbowing each other to testify against Zaev. But still nothing. I mean, Vymera has the interim interior minister. They can provide some protection, I suppose, but they don't have a prosecutor who could charge Zaev over whatever they say, whatever they reveal. One school of thought is that actually these cases are being expedited in order to have Katica declared guilty and then on appeals declared innocent, and complete the process against her and Boki before the Vymera government sets in, hopefully after the April elections. But what we saw today was basically the most pro-SDSM judge, one of the two most pro-SDSM judges in the court in Skopje. He actually relented and gave up and agreed to the very, even to a layperson, obviously correct interpretation of the defense. So basically this shows that the stranglehold on the judiciary by Zaev is weakening. This is the interesting, this is the takeaway today.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. But again, as we, and to look at the timeline again, the elections are April 12, Parliament dissolves around February 11 or something like that. We're on January 13 today, so we can, but these scandals and the trials and whatnot continue, and that's not good for the government of, Oliver Spasovsky, the technical prime minister, and Zoran Zaev, the Socialist Party leader, and SDSM and his coalition group.
Yeah, there are other cases where they're obviously siphoning money. There is the Stip hospital case. Venko Filipčić, the healthcare minister, is turning out to be a real crook. He's now overpaying a project by 7 million out of an initial price of 30 million to a Greek company which was previously charged with corruption here by Katica Janeva, and then the case was quickly withdrawn after she apparently came to some agreement with the Greeks. So there is a lot of this going on, a lot of last minute, plunder and theft that is happening, but they're still, dangling by the hook line.
Yes, the hair of their chinny chin chin. Well, this will all be very interesting again as people get back to. You need a little pour there.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Top it up.
This will. And here's the sound effect.
Yep.
Actually, it wasn't a sound effect, ladies and gentlemen. That was real. Rakia being poured into a real glass.
The crystal glass.
Crystal glass, no less, yes.
High rollers here.
Only the best here in Macedonia.
Cheers to Zaev's soon demise.
Yeah, well, can't happen soon enough. It's interesting, kind of as ruminations, reflections as I walk around Skopje and talk to people and whatnot, because that's what I didn't come here for the weather. Came here just to talk to folks and see what's going on and get an idea. because you never, you can observe from afar, but it's always best to be there in person. And I've got a lot of friends here and whatnot. And actually, as you know, I just put out a new article today on Medium and Svest in Macedonian called 750. Written 750 columns for and about Macedonia since 2001 when I started writing these columns, which amounts to 750 columns plus the other papers and things I've written, the books and whatnot, well over 1 million words. I'm not sure, and I don't want to brag, but I'm not sure if any other foreigner has written that many words for and about Macedonians, but I just get the sense of to use a word from the President Jimmy Carter era in 76 to 1980 in the United States of America, malaise. Yeah. And I don't know, how do you translate that in Macedonian?
Slabos, decay in English, so it would be like decadence almost? No, that's not exactly right.
No, not decadence. It's this period of...
Tonenja, maybe, sinking.
Yeah, sinking, despair, depression. I just don't see... again, it's winter, so frankly, the weather, the cold, it's been gray and cloudy for the past couple of days. The leaves are off the trees, etc. That physically affects us as individuals, as human beings. But people just aren't, they just don't see any hope, any chance of succeeding. And as we know, people, we've talked about this before, we've read about it, people are leaving the country in droves, they're voting with their feet. And I don't see anything new. Even the construction, which is constant in Skopje, as long as I've ever been here, always been construction of new buildings. People leave the countryside, come into the capital. Even the construction seems to have slowed down a bit, to be honest.
Downtown is like an embargo. They're not even supposed to be building anything. They banned completely.
Okay, yeah. I did see, a couple of one or two KFCs, Kentucky Fried Chicken and Burger King.
It's the Kosovo Fried Chicken. It's the Kosovo franchise of the Kentucky franchise.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're
oh my goodness.
Kosovo guys.
It's not even. Oh my goodness.
Wow. I mean, it is the original franchise of some sort, but it came here through Kosovo.
So Kosovo's investing in Macedonia. Okay, well done. Well done.
Drugs and
cannabis and
chicken,
Kosovo Fried Chicken.
Chicken wings.
And Burger King. Hey, I always preferred McDonald's to Burger King, but McDonald's left. So that's what you got.
You have a Domino's.
Domino's.
Two of them actually.
Yeah, that's true. Domino's has been here around a while.
No, nothing is there.
But we're making light of a serious situation in which people there's not a lot of hope.
I mean, culturally, economically, environmentally, it's failed situation. You could tolerate it if this was your country, if this was the country for Macedonians, where you feel like a Macedonian, the place to be a Macedonian in. But it no longer is. It's being, I just had a tweet today about the soldiers who were killed in the helicopter crash in one of our, overly ambitious ideas that we could contribute to a NATO peacekeeping mission in Bosnia for some godforsaken reason. So we sent like 20, 30 soldiers, and 12 of them died when their helicopter, a dozen of them died when the helicopter crashed while they were flying back to Skopje in similarly horrible weather. And, the government would not say that they were Macedonian soldiers. They would say our soldiers, this euphemism they use wherever they put a flag, instead of saying Macedonia. And even the monument, there is a monument in Bosnia. I've seen it with President Ivanov there, and that doesn't say Macedonia, the Macedonian soldiers. So the Greeks would not get upset. So you lose a dozen soldiers on a mission, and you're not even allowed to say which country they came from. So this level of humiliation, this level of losing your country, it's no longer our country. So why stay? I mean, what's the purpose of suffering all these other downsides of living here, unless even if it's no longer the one place which you can call home, national.
Well, think about it in modern history. Let's just say the past 100 years. So setting aside the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the dissolution of Yugoslavia, the dissolution of the Czech Republic, which were
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia, right, into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. or Czechia, which didn't actually catch on. But anyway, that's another subject. Setting aside those things, we haven't seen the demise, the total eradication of a modern-day nation state.
Yeah.
You have to go back a long time. I mean, you can go back to the Etruscans in 750 BC, who were subsumed by the Italians, and the Romans, and the Italians later. But, I mean, I would hate to be sitting here talking with you, Cvetin, at the beginning of 2020, and say 10 years from now, we'd be sitting somewhere else talking about, Macedonia as it existed way back then,
as it was,
because it disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a possibility. I find it hard to contemplate that, but I suppose it is a possibility.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong at this point, unless course is reversed seriously. And even if it is, I mean, there is so much pressure piled on from all sides. Discussed how timid Vomero is in its positioning toward Prespa, and how all the neighbors are smelling blood and trying to get their comeuppance.
Yep.
And the U.S. is obviously sided against Macedonia. And
general correction, the State Department.
Sure,
So,
of course, yes. The deep state. Deep
state, which is actually in your face, as Steve Bannon says. So you're right. Ultimately, it's as it has always been. It's up to the Macedonians to decide if they want to keep Macedonia Macedonian.
Sure.
And I guess that remains to be seen. We'll find out as we progress. So.
Yeah. At this point, it doesn't really look good.
Well, that's not a very happy way to begin this 2020 and the second podcast of the new year.
I was talking to a Bulgarian guy now, and he says, your food is much better. I said, well, we kept the Turks 100 years more than you did, so obviously we had more access to the spices. And
that's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, back to the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. After this short break, it was getting pretty depressing, so we had to break up for a bit more, something else, more to drink and something to eat.
Oh, yeah. So, what we talked about in the opening monologue about some of the new ministers that have taken over part of the Pocesna agreement, that now you have this quote-unquote technical government. So one of them is the first Jewish minister in any Macedonian government, with the exception of who. But anyway, she has received some nasty comments.
It really went off the rails real quick. Rashila Mizrahi, she was named as the interim labor and welfare minister by Vomero. Yes, as you said, first Jewish minister. She comes from a family which was obviously, like all the other Jewish families here, very badly affected by the Holocaust. Very few of them remained. Victor Mizrahi is the notable patriarch of the family, here, and they're prominent, part of the Sephardic community in Skopje. So she was appointed minister by Vomero, but SDSM got really angry about this because they were planning this lady, Mlada,
right,
who was the labor and welfare minister before Rashila. She's being, groomed to likely succeed Zaev by the Soros far left wing of the party. And obviously Rashila is coming to the department with the specific, explicit goal to investigate Tsarovska, investigate any wrongdoing on her part, debunk all of her claims that she greatly improved the welfare of people, etc., which is obviously BS. So they went after her, and they had an interview Rashila did after she was appointed, but the interview was conducted in the Vomero office, and she had the Macedonian flag, and it was some of the offices there in the Vomero headquarters, and among the other decorations was the party flag, obviously, since you're in the Vomero party. They lent her the office for the interview. And SDSM people began a huge, spreading this as a fake news that Rashila had the Vomero party flag in the ministry, in the department, which was allegedly non-kosher, according to them. So Vamara said, no, don't be idiots. This was obviously clearly recorded in the party.
Right.
And Mila Tsarovska, she left as a spokeswoman, a Bosnian lady called Mersiha Smailovic, who is one of the better known proponents of Islam, political Islam in Macedonia. She's outspoken for ending the Gaza blockade. Her husband was allegedly arrested trying to defy the Gaza blockade on one of those Turkish ships which would sail there. So this level of activism, just even trying to storm into Gaza.
Right.
Yeah. And she's obviously a huge open borders proponent and would be active on the refugee and migrant trail in 2015, 2016. So she comments, well, Rochelle has the right to have, because somebody points out to Mersiha that, you can't, any government office in Macedonia go to, if it's an ethnic Albanian who runs it, you would have the Albanian flag, the American flag, the NATO flag, the European Union flag, one more ridiculous than the other. And she says, no, but you can have an ethnic flag, but not a party flag. And she says, well, Rochelle should wear the Star of David.
Wow.
And everybody was like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
trouble. And there were other people who are not, obviously Mersiha is being careful, but also provocative with her statements. She always has been. I mean, she tries to get in your face about, Christianity, teaching Christianity at schools, or the migrants. She would accuse, people on the right of being heartless and white nationalists and whatnot. And others who were not as careful as her, even though this was an outrageous statement from a Muslim political Islam spokeswoman of the ministry where Rochelle is the minister. So she's supposed to be working for Rochelle, not telling her to go put on the yellow arm strip on Facebook. Others were far worse. I mean, they called her a self-hating, self-loathing Jew. You are siding with the Nazi party of Amaro, and which hates the Jews for some reason. And but yeah, we had a huge explosion of this latest issue with leftism, which is anti-Semitism, which we now saw in Britain, and we're seeing a lot of it in the U.S. with the
throughout actually, I mean, New York City, of course, has been a real rise in that, and throughout Europe, and especially in Germany. But was that so you see this rise of anti-Semitism here in Macedonia has been condemned. We've seen the former Prime Minister Zoran Zaev or any members of his government coming out and saying that this is no bueno.
Zaev was dragged kicking and screaming a few days later to give a non-apology. There was no word apologize. He said, I strongly condemn all statements which might be seen or interpreted as hateful. We should all, including anti-Semitism, we should all be more careful, which is the way he always condemns things when he doesn't want to condemn them. OSCE had an equally unintelligible condemnation of the denigration of the first Jewish female minister in the country. The left immediately started, spreading additional fake news that she's, the latest is that she registered on Upwork or some of these freelancing sites to offer writing papers or something like this is a crime now, and she most likely is not. I mean, the account is also most likely faked, much like the party flag in the ministry picture. So they're really going at her because she, this tells you who is now the real mover in the SDSM party, and that's Mila Tsarovska. And, Zaev might, he's clearly noticing this. Tsarovsky even made this famous statement that it's time for a woman prime minister at a time when it was pretty much clear that Oliver Spasovsky is going to be the next prime minister. There was the SDSM PR guru Kosta Petrov who plagiarizes these self-help books like "You Can Reach the Top Like I Did," and it's unreadable.
Right. Yeah.
And then you just Google whatever slogan he came up with, and it turns out in some Oprah-style book in the U.S.
Exactly.
So he did an interview with Tsarovska, all but promoting her as the prime ministerial candidate. They baked cupcakes, for Christ's sakes. They had an event for humanizing her. And then he had to do this exact same interview with Oliver Spasovsky once Spasovsky was actually appointed the interim prime minister, and this became clear that there is a cleavage between the Soros far left wing and the peasant kleptocratic wing of Zaev and Spasovsky.
Interesting. You think she's being groomed by Zaev, which is going to create problems internally?
She's being groomed by others, not
Okay.
Zaev.
Okay.
She might be pushing Zaev out if he wins the elections.
If he loses.
Sorry, if he loses
right,
the
yeah.
elections.
No, if he loses
yeah.
the elections, he's finished, and there's going to be a bloodbath as they fight each other for dominance within the party. So that remains to be seen.
Yeah, many in SDSM realize that Zaev is not even a midterm prospect for the party.
No, and again, I think as we've talked about on this podcast many times before, as we've both written and spoken about independently of it, Zaev was a useful tool, for the international Western elites to push the name change through. They found somebody who was willing to do their bidding. And he did it, and now he can be dismissed unceremoniously, and that is exactly what's going to happen. What he does not realize at this point is that he is being dismissed, or actually has been, but he's not going to get the support of the quote-unquote friends that he thought he had. And then life after that, how old is Zaev? Mid-40s, early 40s?
Yeah, mid-40s.
Mid-40s, okay. And then after that, what? There's no future. So he's got his millions. He's got his supporters. He can't leave the country and go work for an international NGO or think tank or media outlet like Nikola Dimitrov, who is slick as snot. So he's stuck. He's here. He's got his money, but he can't do anything.
If he can keep it.
If he can keep it, yeah. I mean, at that point, frankly, for Zoran Zaev, life is empty. It's meaningless. It's worthless. There's no dignity. There's no future. There's no hope. You're just going through the motions. It's kind of like Branko Soronkovsky. I still don't understand what he does, and he's in his late 50s or early 60s, and he's got his money. Or, frankly, Lubcho Georgievsky, first Vomero prime minister. What is the point of life after that for these people? I don't know. And I can't imagine that they're content or happy people. It's empty.
Yeah. I wouldn't concern myself with his mental well-being, after all he did to the country. But we discussed this a lot. That during the purge, it was clearly factional infighting in SDSM, and now we have the answer. We expect that it's going to be the urban, city-slick wing of SDSM that's going to do away with Zaev, but we're not sure who would be part of this, whether Shekerinska, but now Shekerinska is so deeply enmeshed in the racketeering scandal, with the reports that Boki 13 testified, mentioned her. So it's going to be very difficult for her to disentangle herself from Zaev. And Tsarovska, who is the daughter of the former spokeswoman for the bankster Prime Minister of Macedonia, Hari Kostov, this oligarchic bankster who practically seized the Komercijalna bank, the largest bank in the country, refused to sell it to a proper, normal, cash-rich foreign bank, but kept it for himself, hoping that he's going to hold on to as many businesses in the country as possible, who was famously arresting people, Vomero people in 2002 in a campaign very similar to what is now being done to Vomero since 2017. And his spokeswoman, this hideous person, she's Tsarovska's mother. And now evil tongues say that Tsarovska looks a bit like Hari Kostov as well. So she has this inexplicable personal wealth, an unwed husband who would get a lot of drone flying contracts, but from the government. He's like this droning entrepreneur, so he purchases drones for the city of Skopje or the environment minister. But this does not explain all the money she has. Something is happening here. So this would be the Harry Kostov / George Soros wing of the party. And Zaev could be taught as a parrot to repeat some leftist talking points, but Tsarovska, so far, she worked for NGOs which promote legalizing hard drugs, not just marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah, she would be... Hira is the name of the, obviously, USAID funded...
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The Soros needle exchange program, they're doing the Macedonian equivalent. They would promote, obviously, abortion on demand, and one of her big brags was that they slightly liberalized the already very liberal law on abortion in Macedonia, so they make this look like abortion was banned under Gruevski, but she's now bringing it back. This is what she thinks would improve her standing with the SDSM base.
Vote for a citizen. It's much easier to kill your unborn baby.
Yeah, much less red tape in the process.
Right.
And obviously, the Macedonians are largely rejecting this. So to make up for the lost votes, they're turning to we don't have migrants here because of the nature of the country, but we have, obviously Albanians, other Muslim minorities who have been here from before, and SDSM is turning to them, and therefore we have this anti-Semitism issue, just the same way, the US left, the British left is developing an anti-Semitism issue by courting the Muslim vote in their countries.
Right.
The same thing is happening to SDSM here.
Wow. Not a very pretty picture.
Yeah. It's, very predictable.
Yeah.
But, you could, I don't want to say something stupid.
Well, let's say we're about 43.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we, since I said not a very pretty picture, why don't we come back
sure.
to Honeyland?
Yeah, it really isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're, I think, pushing at the time limit for this podcast. And also, we're kind of low on liquor.
Well, we got to rectify that immediately.
We have to switch to something different. We could. This could be a good moment to switch to our farmers' picks.
Absolutely. Well, I think we have we agreed on a joint farmers' pick. And as I said, the scene as we have just talked about, and here in Macedonia is not quote unquote a pretty picture. But what is a pretty picture is the fact that Honeyland, a Macedonian production about Macedonia, has just been nominated for Best Documentary and Best Foreign Film by the, and I'm going to get this wrong, is it the Motion Picture, the Arts and...
Oh.
Yeah, it's for the Oscars in the United States. It shows you how much I follow that. I never watch it. But it is the first film since Milcho Manchevsky's Before the Rain to be nominated for an Oscar. 95, right. Yeah. So, but this is nominated in two different categories. So, Best Documentary and Best Foreign Feature. Right. So I think that is something that Macedonians can all be proud of. It is it's a very moving film. I saw it in Tucson when it was at one of our indie arts theaters. And it's the cinematography is fantastic. The story is wonderful. I think it's a bit bleak, but I think it kind of fits the overall narrative and landscape of Macedonia. Unfortunately, sometimes. Granted, if I already went on Google to look for examples where people use the phrase North Macedonian. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, we can always count on them to screw things up. Yeah. They said North Macedonian film Honeyland nominated for. So thank you to Thank you to Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty for squandering American taxpayer money.
This girl from the Sex and the City, the main character, what was her name? Gosh,
I have no idea.
The actress, she wanted to score some, I'm watching artsy movies. So she said on Twitter, I watched this great movie from Macedonia, blah, blah, blah. And her mentions exploded.
Just Sarah Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was apologizing to the Greeks. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize all the sensitivities about the name I used. I was supposed to say North Macedonia. And she just wanted to look like sophisticated and refined on Twitter, but
Oh boy, yeah. Well, she was rudely awakened. So, but Honeyland. So that will be Macedonia's official. Well, it's their entry, but nominated now officially as of today, January 13th. The Academy Awards are in early February. I want to say February 9, but I'm not positive. So I don't follow this.
No, I mean,
but if Macedonia does win, that'll be fantastic. It'll be a good boost for Macedonia. Of course, we'll have to go out correcting everybody saying, no, it's just Macedonia. So, but anyway, I think that's our joint farmers pick for this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast.
Yeah, it was a good cheer when we heard the news today in the office. Although somebody noted that, well, hey, the first nominated movie was for interethnic Macedonian Albanian fighting and feuding over centuries, and now we are nominated in a category with a movie which really makes us, which it's more tragic that it's true. It's actually happening, like on our drive from where we sit now, that people are harvesting wild honey from wild bees to make a living.
Yeah.
So this is like almost Paleolithic survival
in villages that are emptying out.
God.
So that's true.
It's not all good news, but it's interesting enough to get to the Oscars. We lost on the Eurovision contest. We didn't get the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
so, but now we're contender for the Oscars.
We're getting closer. So, well, this has been a fun recording as always, but doubly fun because I'm here in Macedonia.
Yep.
And next week we'll be back to the grind at the office in Tucson, and we'll be doing this by.
Oh, poor you, sitting in the desert sun there and in bleak Tucson in the office.
Oh, it'll probably be 23, 24 degrees and sunny outside Celsius.
White clouds rolling across
the
azure blue skies.
Yeah. Hey, get me a job here. I'll come. So.
No, you get me a job there.
All right.
It will be easier in the Trump economy.
There we go. Yes.
Than in the Zaev economy to find me a job.
Well, great. Always good talking to you, Cvetin.
You too, buddy.
All right. Take care.
Take care.